Jacob, when did you get the sense that you were going to be able to return for the Army Navy game? And what were the most important things you did during rehab that got you to the point where you can play on Saturday?
Well, I never really had a uh like an exact timeline on when I was going to be able to return. So when I got the call from Dr. Waltz telling me that I was able to play, I mean that was pretty shocking. It's not like I had I have kind of an idea that I might be able to play. Like it went from not playing to playing in a matter of one phone call, so that was pretty cool. But the rehab part, I mean, it's all thanks to my trainers, strength coaches, lifting coaches, everyone. They developed a plan for me to kind of move along faster in my rehab process, probably than normal. It was a great plan. I'm already back benching. I've been back benching. I was benching today. Just got done with a lift. So it feels strong. It feels good. But it was just pushing it a little bit farther, constantly stretching it, even in class, moving my wrist, um, just like flexion stuff, just all the time. That was probably the biggest key, was stretching it, making sure it's loose. So any activity that I could do, like lifting, went smoothly. So that was great.
And what's your anticipation for what kind of impact you think you can have in the game Saturday?
Hopefully a big one. I mean, I plan on it being a big one. Um, but any amount of snaps that I get, I'm grateful. Justin Reed, he's earned that starting spot. He's had a heck of a season, heck of a year, and he's one of my really good friends, and just seeing his success on the field has that's been awesome for me to watch. But so I hope that I just get a decent amount of plays. I'm not asking to play the whole game. I know that Justin's earned that right. But any play that I get in there, I'm going to try to make an impact. I have fresh legs, not so much fresh lungs. It's kind of hard for me to catch my breath in practice sometimes, getting back in the flow of football. But I'll be good to go for the game. So any play that I get, I'm excited to make, whatever impact I can.
What have been your biggest takeaways, and what have you learned the most from your two starts in the Army Navy game that'll help you in this your final game?
Keeping your cool. That's definitely the biggest thing that I'm gonna tell the younger guys, especially that like Landon Robinson, this being his first Army Navy game, some other young guys, just keep your cool. I remember when I was a sophomore, my first time starting in that game, it was such a electric environment, such a big atmosphere, and it was kind of hard to stay calm when you take the field. Your chest is pounding. Your head you might have a lot of stuff going on in your head.
I'm in.
Um, but one thing that I've really just gotten better with, especially sophomore year, junior year, and this year, is definitely keeping your cool. I'm going to go out there and you just treat it like another football game. Obviously, it's not another football game. It means a lot more. But just tell yourself that it is. It's just another game. Just do your job, read your key, and keep your cool. And just we talk about breathe, focus, and explode, and you do that every play. Take a deep breath, focus, and then do your job.
Thanks a lot, Jacob.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Go to Bill Wagner.
Jacob, even though you were told it was a season-ending injury, I remember you telling me that as soon as you got back from being at home right after surgery, you immediately got into the weight room and started doing what you could. Why did you start to rehab, even though you didn't think you were rehabbing for, returning to the field?
That's a great question. Yeah, so at first I wasn't rehabbing to return to the field. I guess why I started doing it so soon is because I'm to have something to do every day, a practice, a lift, meetings, and kind of having that taken away from you. In my mind, I'm still a very fast-paced, moving person. So not having something to do was something I wasn't used to. And that was so I was super excited. My 4 or 5 days off. I think I missed a couple weeks of school, but especially right after the surgery when I missed that first week of school, just not doing anything and knowing that my team is practicing right now, like sitting at home, I watched the USF game at home, watching that game and not only not being on the field, but not even being on the sideline and watching them on TV, it was weird for me. And I didn't like it at all. So I was really excited to get back, even though I was in a brace, in a cast, whatever I was at the moment when I first got back. I was excited. I was in there that first Monday, Tuesday, whenever I returned to school, and I was in the weight room just doing anything I could, single arm stuff, some crunches, abs. Couldn't run yet. As soon as I got the cast off, I was able to run. But it was pretty much just I wasn't doing it to get back into football because I didn't think that was a reality. I was just doing it just to get back into a normal routine and kind of just help me through, my process mentally.
So I think you had told me when we talked once before that 2 NFL players played through bicep injuries. I think it was like TJ Watt and someone else. Who was that? You told me that.
It was JJ Watt and Terrell Suggs. I could be wrong. That's who I thought it was. But yeah, they just played through it because they're old. That's how they played through that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, did they tell you originally what is the normal recovery time, rehabilitation time for this injury following surgery?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Sorry, I was trying to move my camera a little bit.
I was saying, what did the doctors tell you, or maybe the trainers, is the normal rehabilitation time period after having this particular surgery?
So I was told 4 to 5 months, I think. But that was a very what's the right word? Conservative recovery plan. 5 months was kind of like the max. That's taking it really easy, being real, lenient with the arm, not really pushing it. So when I heard that, I was planning to be back in 3. And I think we're pretty close to it. We might be at 2.5 right now. But so 5 months was the max. 4 months is normal. But if you're on a more aggressive plan, this is how I understood. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, so I might be. If Dr. Waltz sees this, he might be like, "Oh, he's completely wrong." But from what I understand, I think 3 months is where we were shooting for. It's just kind of moving it a little bit quicker than someone who didn't think it was a possibility of playing in Army Navy, which I didn't, but just having that opportunity is great. So it's probably like 3 months for me.
So why do you think you were able to come back so fast? Was it because the surgery was such a success, or maybe the tear wasn't as bad, or what do you think has led you to be able to kind of hit a record time for recovery?
I honestly, Dr. Waltz did a phenomenal job with the surgery and communication. I toured on a Thursday and I was having surgery on a Wednesday. So within a week, and the surgery went well. The communication with everyone, with Dr. Waltz, with my trainers, with lifting coaches, everything went perfect. I mean, they were walking me through the process. I was bouncing around between football, and we also have a rehab facility just for anyone on the yard, just in Bancroft Hall, just for any athlete. So I was bouncing around from them to just for football. And Dr. Vath was someone I was working with here, and he was always in constant communication with Dr. Waltz, and having them just create a plan for me. So that, and just honest communication, that's probably why I was able to return as fast as I was. Everything from the surgery to a specific lifting plan that I was on, starting off small, 5-pound dumbbells, 10-pound dumbbells, a lot of stretches, heat, ice, everything. Just every day was something new, and that's probably why I was able to return so quickly.
So at what point did you begin like cardio type work? And again, I know initially that through this all, you aren't expecting that you're going to play, so you're not really trying to get into game condition, but I'm sure at some point you started trying to work on that, right?
Right. Yeah, I looked in the mirror one day and I was a little bit chubbier around in the neck than I was used to. So as soon as I had my brace, as soon as I got the cast off and I was in my brace, I had a little bit more range of motion. I started jogging, nothing too explosive, no sprints, no touching lines, doing, things bad, like no sprinting, nothing crazy like that, but just 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 mile jogs. Kind of, that was what I started with in the brace. As soon as I got the brace off, I had a conversation with Dr. Waltz, and I was able to do more sprinting stuff, like 10-yard sprints, touching lines, 10-5-10, 5-10-5, something like that. But I was able to do more sprinting stuff like that as soon as I got the brace off.
So when exactly did you first start participating in padded practices?
My first full pad practice was this Tuesday, so 2 days ago. And then obviously we were in pads on Wednesday. But I returned to practice not this week, but last week, the beginning of last week. So I had 2 weeks ever since after SMU.
But so the question is, with only 2 padded practices, do you feel like you're going to be physically? I mean, it's such a physical game. Do you feel like you're physically able to go out there and do what you have to do?
Absolutely. It's kind of muscle memory, to be honest. I didn't expect it for it to come back that quick, but when I took the field, I was a little nervous, honestly, on Tuesday. First full padded practice, I was a little sore. So I was like, a little nervous. I kind of babied it the first few periods, first few quarters. But it was kind of cool how the way I started practice and the way I finished practice were completely different. It kind of took me a couple periods, like I said, to get back into the swing of things. But by the third, fourth quarter of practice, kind of those last 5 to 6 periods, I kind of, it was kind of just muscle memory. It was kind of like everything that I did over the summer and at the beginning of the year, Notre Dame, Wagner, Memphis, all that stuff just started coming back to me. And it was easier to get back into kind of that physical mindset.
All right. Go back to Scott Wyckoff.
Jacob, talking about how tough this game is. I mean, you play against some top-notch offensive linemen from Notre Dame in the past, from the likes of Cincinnati. What makes this game and the offensive linemen you face so tough?
I would say pad level. That's probably the first thing that comes to mind. A lot of the guys that I play, like Notre Dame, Cincinnati, Houston last year, those guys are big. Those guys are like 6'7", 6'8". So it's kind of easier. It's kind of easier to go from game to game against those guys because maybe something I did the week before would work against them because they're all tall, they're all long, lengthy guys. So I kind of had the same plan, strategy, routine against them. But Army and Air Force, they are, they're not 6'8", 6'7" guys, maybe a little bit shorter, kind of like our guys. And they play extremely low to the ground and they fire off the ball. So that's kind of the biggest challenge is transitioning your mind to more of this guy's bigger than me, maybe use some speed, maybe use some more hands to now we're playing Army and there's our Coach Hard, defensive line coach, he says it all the time. There's nothing pretty about it. I mean, we watch clips in the film room of, we're getting double teamed, we'll just dive at knees and just create a pile. And there's nothing pretty about it. It's not glamorous or anything, but that's kind of the mentality that you have to have going into Army is just like, these guys are going to fire up the ball. They're going to be low and low man's going to win. Because if you're high on these guys, they're going to drive, and we've seen it in film, they're going to drive you 5 yards off the ball. And that's all Army needs. If they can drive you 5 yards off the ball, they're just going to keep doing that play after play, and they're going to drive down the field and they're going to score. So keeping, pad level and firing off the ball is key.
What has been the key this season for you guys when you make a sack, when you make a tackle for a loss, stripping the ball and recovering it?
What were you asking? You asked what's
been the key to doing that this year?
Key.
The strips on both the sacks and the tackles for losses.
Oh, we emphasize strip sacks all the time. We always talk about when you're not sacking the quarterback, you're sacking the ball. So when you're running after the cue and you see his back turn, maybe he doesn't see you coming. I mean, it's a perfect opportunity to punch the ball and get it out. I mean, we talk about get six and turnovers. If you can get a combination of 3 and outs, turnovers, fourth down stops, that goes towards our count of getting 6. And we win almost all the games that we can get a group of those 6. The takeaways are huge. And tackles for loss, I mean, we don't celebrate those as much as we do takeaways, obviously. We just kind of have a next play mentality. We talk about that in the D-line room all the time. If you get a tackle for loss, we're D-linemen. That's kind of what we're supposed to do, wreak havoc. So, yeah, you make it, you go from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 12. Like, that's awesome. Celebrate for a couple seconds and then get back on the line of scrimmage and go again. But if you get a takeaway, obviously the celebration's a lot more celebratory because you're off the field. So that's awesome.
And what's it been like for you in your 4-year career playing defensive line with so many good linebackers that the offensive has had to worry about in addition to you?
It's awesome. That's been one of my favorite things about this program is I've always had someone. I love playing with everybody, don't get me wrong, but I've always had someone that is so much fun to be on the field with. And there's so many guys that I could name, but I'm just going to go with a few. And so John Marshall, knowing that he was right to my side was awesome. Having Diego Fago right behind me my sophomore year, awesome. Even Will Harper was one of my best friends, and having him the last few years has been awesome. Playing next to Biscuit has been awesome. So it's really cool when the people that are making a huge impact on the field, like John Marshall and Diego, those guys are also like your really good friends. And them playing right next beside them is awesome. Me and Diego had a handshake sophomore year that I think we only broke out once against Tulsa, which we should have done it more. But it's just a good feeling knowing that that there's other guys out there that are just, I mean, everyone's a baller and they got to worry about everyone. And it's kind of cool when those guys are playing right next to you or right behind you.
Good luck this weekend.
Thank you so much.
Wags.
So regardless of how it works out in terms of game repetitions, how great is it to be suiting up for this game as opposed to walking out for the pregame coin toss in your, sweatshirt and your shorts or whatever you've been doing for the last, 6, 7, 8 games, whatever it is?
He wouldn't have shorts on Saturday.
Yeah, I would. But
Be that warm.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I'm super excited because what I've been doing the last 11 weeks, 12 weeks, I have been in shorts and a sweatshirt, sweatpants or whatever, and it's just a different mentality suiting up that you don't get when you're not suited up. Obviously, it's not. My mindset is no longer let me coach up the younger guys, so they can go out there and they can perform. Now it's like I'm going to battle with them. Now I'm going out there with them, performing with them. And that, as much as I loved coaching up Justin and being there for those guys with anything they needed, just getting them water, as much as I love doing that, there's nothing better than being on the field with them and going to battle with them one last time against Army in Gillette Stadium. I mean, I couldn't be more excited. I wish I got to do more of it this year. Unfortunately, that's not how it went, but like, you can't take anything for granted, and I'm not going to take this game for granted. It's my last one, and every snap, whether I get 5 snaps or 50, I'm going to give it my all every play. So I'm excited.
Thanks, Jacob. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Anyone have anything else?
Yeah, one more for me, Jacob. How cool was it when the Marine Corps brass showed up and talked to you guys at practice?
Oh, that's awesome because, kind of hard to describe, but that's our boss's boss, and they make decisions that just get passed down and we follow them. Obviously, I'm not a Marine yet, so I haven't had much of that, but just to get a glimpse of the people I'm going to be working under, and just having them come and just talk to us, talk to the team. He pulled aside the Marines, the Marine selects on the football team, all the seniors, and talked to us after, and just it's just a super cool thing, just, seeing those people that, even though they're way outrank us by so much and they're our bosses, we're all one big team. And he took time out of his day to come talk to us and get us hype at the end of practice. I mean, that was awesome.
Coach and every player we've spoken to this week has talked about breathe, focus, and explode. Why are those 3 words so important, especially for a player in this game?
Yeah, I think the major thing is, Scott, is to not let the emotions of the game play with you, and it's critical that we execute at a high level, and everybody's going to be excited on both sides of the field. There's obviously the pageantry, what this game means to everyone involved and even those watching, and just not let those things mess with you to the point where you can't execute your job at a really high level. And I think that's really been the battle cry for us as a football team, is that we've got to be able to take those emotions, play with them, but don't let them play with us.
Each season, year by year, do you take away something different that helps you each year coaching in this game?
You'd like to think so. I think just like anything in life, the more you do things, the better that you can get at it. And when you have that growth mentality, that growth mindset, obviously we go up against these guys every year. They go against us. You're going to study the Air Force film as well, all those types of things. So you're going to look at it and try to find the things that you need to do better, what you did well, accentuate on that, continue to grow from it. You try to talk to the guys about the environment, the situation, what's going on, on the outside too, so we can eliminate distractions and really be able to focus on the game itself and what's going on between the 53 and the 3rd and the 120.
It really seems like Aan Given has been flying around in the practices, getting ready for this, not only for him, but it seems so the guys play off his energy.
Yeah, I mean, Gibby's like that 365 days a year, man. He's one of those guys that you got to say, whoa, to not sick them. We talk about that a ton defensively. Is we want to have guys that we got to tell to slow down, not to go get them. And Gibby's definitely one of those guys. I think he's a leader. He's extremely well respected on this football team. I just think he brings a ton of energy to us defensively, and I love the way he goes about his work. And it doesn't matter if it's a walkthrough, a full padded scrimmage, a game, or anything in between. He's going to give his absolute best every single day, and that's what makes him so special. And as a coach, you want those types of guys, and you want them to rub off on as many people as possible.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Wags.
PJ, I think a big reason why Army's favored in this game is the respective results against Air Force. In particular, offensively, Army was able to move the ball and score points on Air Force, and Navy was not. What did Army do to move the ball and score points on Air Force? What do you think made them successful offensively against Air Force? Because that's something you have to consider. How can you defend Army better than Air Force did?
Sure. You look at that game, I think it all starts up front. I think they did a nice job with the offensive line controlling the line of scrimmage. And then behind that, I think it's a moot point. Whatever the pieces look like behind that, it's not as adamant as those 5-6 guys up front, maybe even 7 or 8 at times. Controlling the line of scrimmage and be able to getting push there. And I think a big piece of it too was, the field position battle there, Wags. Getting in some spots where they had advantageous field position, and they did a wonderful job capitalizing on those situations. And we all know these games, it's football at its finest. It's controlling the line of scrimmage. It's taking care of the football. It's field position. That's why we call them BFE games, because just one little slip up can determine the outcome of the game. But I think they played an excellent football game against Air Force, and we have to play our best game of the year on Saturday.
So what is the key to defending this zone blocking scheme of Army's? I talked to Coach Monken, and he indicated that the reason he did this is because in the old option, the ball was all the hats were flowing in the same direction, and ultimately the ball was going to get to a predetermined point, and the defense knew that. Whereas with zone blocking, they're reading things, and you never know ultimately where the ball is going to be. Is that too simple of an explanation? And how do you defend zone blocking?
I don't think it's too simple of an explanation. I think there's that's not exclusively what they do, but they do that very well. And the beauty of zone blocking is the ball can hit at a lot of different places when you have good ball carriers that can read it, and that's what makes it challenging. That's what makes it difficult. That's what it got real famous with Terrell Davis and the Denver Broncos running those zone schemes back when they were making their Super Bowl runs and things like that. And it hasn't left since for a reason. It's a challenging scheme to play against. The thing is, you have to have great gap integrity and block destruction. And so you have to be on point with your fits. You have to have low eyes in your gap. You have to get vertical separation. And be able to destroy blocks and get off blocks and disengage blocks, even because there's times where the ball's going to hit in your gap, and just because you're in your gap doesn't mean that you're going to be able to make the football play. You've got to be able to disengage with the blocker and make the play when the ball does show in your gap. And they've got guys that run hard, they run downhill, they run side to side as well. They've got some dynamic ball carriers. And like I said before, the offensive line does an excellent job controlling the line of scrimmage.
So Coach Monken said another reason why he made the switch is because he is, quote, tired of banging his head against the wall in service academy games where Air Force and Navy defend the option so well. And he just felt like you're never going to be able to go against Air Force and Navy and be able to really move the ball effectively because they defend that old style flex bone option so well. Do you look at this and what they're doing now and say, wow, this is a whole new animal for us? Now we got basically all of what you've done to defend Army in the past, is that out the window?
I think they have a more expansive playbook now than they had previously. And I think that just makes them harder to defend in terms of those things. I don't know all the reasoning behind, the decisions they make. And if those are things that he said, then that's that. But these games, Wags, I mean, you've been around long enough, you've watched long enough. Like, there's always new things. There's always wrinkles. There's always things that you got to cover. The head coaches, the coordinators, they just do an amazing job trying to put their guys in position to be successful. And whatever the reason it is that they made the switch, we've got to be prepared for a lot.
So are you able to replicate their zone blocking in practice?
You go against zone blocking all year long. Like, it's probably the most used blocking scheme in Division I college football. I'm sure, I know it is, but it's something that you go against year in and week in and week out, Wag. So that's something that our scout team has done, since we played Notre Dame, preparing for those guys in Ireland.
So that might be the answer to the question I was going to ask. What other team that really ran the ball primarily, not a throwing team? Because, SMU can run zone blocking schemes in their rushing game, but that's not what SMU is all about. Is Notre Dame the best example of a team you've played this season that executed zone blocking schemes in a predominantly run attack?
I shoot about everybody that we've played. That's where it all starts. And it may look a little different in, what's going on in the backfield, the motions, where the back's located, the track of the back, all that type of stuff. But everybody we've played has ran zone blocking at some point. We've played, Air Force runs zone blocking, Army runs zone blocking. I would say SMU and Notre Dame. Those are the four best offensive lines we've seen this year.
So you mentioned block destruction is the key to go out and basically, instead of being dictated to, and give their guys a chance to read, to go and blow these blocks up, and suddenly you're on attack.
Well, I think defensively, that's what you try to do every game. Is you want to be the aggressor, you want to be the one that's on the attack, and they're saying the exact same thing to their guys. I mean, that's football. Is you certainly don't want to be on your heels playing this game. You want to be the guys that are coming downhill and playing downhill, and that doesn't change no matter who you're playing. And that's obviously something that we emphasize week in and week out. That's why this game is so wonderful. Is obviously the rivalry, the pageantry, all those things, but like I said before, like I say again, I mean, it's football at its finest. It's two teams wanting to come downhill at each other and impose their will. And at that point, you're doing everything you can to try to break the will of the other team. And it's not easy to do.
There have been times in this game when defensively Navy, and this is even under Coach Newberry, has replaced a defensive back with a linebacker, or replaced a linebacker with a defensive end. I think back to the 2020 game when Coach New played that unique style that added an extra D lineman. Is that something you can do against Army in this current offense, or are they set up in such a manner that if you take D backs or linebackers off the field, that's going to be costly?
They're really, really multiple with what they do offensively. So as a defensive staff, we've looked at almost every way we can put our best personnel out on the field.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Wags.
Scott Wyckoff.
Coach, we won't hear their names announced on Saturday, and we won't see them on the field, but the scout team, how important have they been, not only in the last couple of weeks, but all season long, helping you guys get prepared for this game.
Yeah, it's critical. Everybody's got a role on the football team, and it's something that we talk about immediately as soon as you get here. Everybody's got a role, and although some of them you may not like the role that you're in, the best way to get out of that role is do the very best you possibly can in that role. And defensively, we start every meeting, victory is produced and shared by all. And that doesn't mean that doesn't exclude anyone. Everybody's got to be all in on whatever their job is. And I think our scout team does an amazing job. I think our coaches really take a lot of ownership of those guys, especially we've got our TADs that run the huddle and do a great job with those guys. But we have meetings with them. We watch the opponent film as a coaching staff. We watch the opponent film with those guys to show them how we want to emulate snap counts, how we want to emulate splits, motions, just the mannerisms of the guys on the field, and the guys really embrace it and have ran with it. And there's several guys that have gone way beyond expectations in that group, and really proud of a lot of those guys.
A lot being made about this game being played in New England for the first time. Does that help you guys with your recruiting footprint? I know talking to a lot of the players, they say the first time they heard about the Naval Academy was maybe during the Army-Navy game and things of that sort. Does getting up into New England, will that help open some doors for you guys?
I can't think it could hurt. I think, it's such a unique game. It's such a unique experience. I think it's really cool that they're moving it to different locations over the next several years. Philadelphia was a wonderful setting the years that we've played there, and obviously we'll be back there in coming years. But I just think that it's a really cool deal to be able to take the team up there, to go to Gillette Stadium, where the Patriots have been, the dynasty of NFL football, and have an opportunity to go up there and play. And obviously with Coach Belichick and his relationship with the Naval Academy and the city of Annapolis, I think it's extremely special for us to be able to go up there and play in that environment. And I think, having college game day there, having all those things there, I think, Coach Newberry's doing some cool spots and things like that, leading up to the game. I think all that stuff just helps with recruiting, and just puts us in the forefront of recruits' minds. When families get a chance to sit down and see this game in that context, in that environment, and say, that's something I could see myself being part of. It's bigger than, just the name on the back of the jersey. It's the name on the front. It's the American flag. It's the fabric of our country. I just think it's the more places that we can go and share this game with people, the better.
Great. Good luck.
Thanks, Scott.
Wags.
PJ, you mentioned Coach Belichick. He's got a Thursday night game. Have you spoken to him about serving as a special defensive assistant? Maybe he could be up there in the press box giving you some pointers. He's a defensive guy. He's been a defensive coordinator. He might have some things to help you.
Yeah, if he wants to chime in, he can call it. He'll take care of it. I would welcome any type of help from him.
On a more serious note, you have a lot of veteran players. Biscuit, Cromwell, Harbor, Ramos, McDonald, Lane, Gibbons. There are a lot of veterans on that defensive side of the ball. Does that give you a lot of confidence going into this game? Because you talk about everybody has to be on point, do your job, execute. Does that give you a lot of confidence as you go into defending this Army offense?
I think just like what we said earlier, the more you do something, the better that you get at it, and you're constantly looking to grow and improve and get better. These guys have been, a lot of those guys, the guys that you mentioned, have been in this situation before. I think it just helps in terms of calming your nerves, so you can go execute and play physical at a very high level. And we know this is going to be the most physical game of the year. It's going to be the most emotional game of the year. It's going to be the most challenging game of the year, and it's the biggest game of the year. So we know that we need our best players to play at their best, and we need those guys, itching to be on the field, and I know they will be.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm thinking about guys like Harbor, in particular, Ramos, who's such tenacious, hard-nosed guys. Are they frothing at the mouth to get out there and play this game? I can't imagine that for Will Harbor, this is the last chance to put it all on the line.
I would assume that everybody is excited about playing this football game. There's nothing else. It was our last mental Monday. It was our last tough Tuesday. It was our last work Wednesday. It's going to be our last focus Thursday. And our message, we joke. I said, you know what I'm going to say right now. Before we broke the team meeting, and they all knew, or the defensive meeting, they all knew that coach says it's got to be the best work Wednesday of the year, and that's our approach with everything that we do. Is we're trying to do things better than we've ever done it before. So today, focus Thursday, they know I'm going to tell them the exact same thing. Like, this got to be the best focus Thursday of the year, and then it's got to be the best Fast Friday of the year, and then hopefully those things prepare us for our best game day of the year.